So now that we've talked a little bit about other pots, let's talk a little bit about fabric pots. Now fabric pots, these are, came out, I want to say like a few years ago or so, and they're becoming very, very popular just for the fact that, for one, it lets the roots breathe. I mean, there's air coming in and out of here, and the roots will actually breathe inside of here and give oxygen to them when they're growing in the soil, as opposed to plastic pots. They're really nice. They're better than plastic containers, I would think. They release heat, so that way if you have this outside, it won't get super hot and the roots won't cook, which causes damage, and then it causes the plant to just be stunted. Like I said, it aerates the root zone. It stops what's called root circling. Now, root circling is when it circles around the inside of the pot and it ends up becoming root bound because of that. Okay. So basically this type of material, it air prunes the roots. And so what air pruning is let's say I have a plant that's growing up and its roots were growing to the side, and then there was a stop and it was just an open ditch right here. The roots would grow out and come out a little bit right here, but then they would air prune, which cuts them off, and then they would find other ground to kind of go through and to look for water and nutrients. And that's what air pruning is. It means it can't go any farther. It will not produce any more root zone from that point on because there's no ground there. So that's kind of what these pots do in a sense, because it'll grow out a little bit, but then it'll stop. It's great for all kinds of plants. Literally, like, you can actually grow lots of different types of plants in these, including cannabis. And the thing is they come in different sizes too. I mean, they come in multiple different types of sizes for you to grow in, and you have to transplant them and transplant them and transplant them, but it'd be a lot easier and a lot better to grow in these as opposed to plastic pots, just because they're not stuck. I've seen plants that, where there's two fabric pots like right next to each other, and the roots grow in to each other's pot, which is pretty interesting to see, just because there's no air pruning going on between the two pots because they're so close together and they're touching. So that's another interesting aspect to it. When you water it, there's condensation on the outside, but all the water will come out of the bottom because gravity's pulling it out of the bottom. So there will be condensation on the sides when it gets watered, but it's not like the water is just going to come flying out of this thing at all. It's made out of good recycled material, and it's very, very useful when it comes to growing plants, just because of its qualities of air getting to the roots and things like that. So pros and cons of using these, I would say there's more pros than cons, just for the fact that, like I was saying earlier, it gives a lot of oxygen to the roots, something you don't get with plastic pots. It stops the root bound. You're able to grow bigger plants in these as opposed to smaller plants, because there's more room and more air for the roots to grow, and they move around correctly. And also, they're easily storable. Having these types where you can just kind of crush it like this and stick it in a bag, or fold it and stick it in a bag, I mean, that's pretty awesome. I mean, you can't do that with plastic pots, obviously. You got to stack them, and they got to sit somewhere like in your garage or closet or something. With these, you can actually roll them up into a bag, stick them into a closet or a corner, and they don't take up hardly any space. So these are pretty awesome. I would definitely recommend using these. And that ends our chapter for fabric pots.